Meth just made me want to die, and I didn't know how to quit. When they got to the point of explaining to us why we had these reactions, why I had to use so much more at the end than I did at the beginning, why I felt rage and anger and depression, when I finally understood that it was meth that was impacting my brain and my behavior, it really helped me want to be clean, because I understood that it wasn't me, it was the drug itself.
Sam Minsky works with the Matrix Institute on addictions.
Hi, everyone.
Here, he meets with a group in recovery.
You know, one of the big mysteries in this field is why people continue to use drugs even after it doesn't feel that good or there's really bad consequences in their lives. And, you know, I wonder why some of you started using in the first place. I'm assuming that at first it worked in some way.
I started using meth when I was 19 to mask feelings. I had a really huge blow up with my father, and I just wanted anything to numb it.
Initially, you know, I was in high school. It was the thing to do. You know, I didn't know about the rush and everything that came with it. It was party time.
The first time I used methamphetamine, I was over a friend of mine's house, this young lady, and we were drinking, and she said, "You should try this, it'll really make you feel good."
Because I heard that it was a really good way to lose weight. My friends were using it, and I had just had a baby.
I felt like I could go on for hours and hours, you know, with no fatigue or nothing. That was a good feeling.
I'm Kristen. I was a user too. I know what it's like. We all start using meth for a reason. It gives us what we want at first, but quickly backfires. Let's explore why meth makes us feel so good. One of the gifts of life is the ability to experience pleasure. When we come across something we like, a message travels to the reward center of our brain, and we experience pleasure. Our brains are finely tuned machines. Inside, cells called neurons are constantly communicating to shape how we think, feel, and act. Let's eavesdrop on their conversation. These are the ends of two neurons. The one on the right sends a message, and the one on the left receives it. At first, they look connected, but they are actually separated by a tiny space called a synapse, where messages are relayed. What we'll see next is how we normally experience pleasure. The sending neuron contains dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical. When something good happens to us, this feel-good chemical is released into the synapse, where it connects with receptors. There, dopamine activates the receiving neuron, which in turn conveys the message onto the next neuron, creating a chain reaction that produces pleasure. After the message is sent, dopamine is recycled by transporters to be reused. This conversation repeating itself again and again gives us the feeling of pleasure. When dopamine connects with receptors, we feel good. To understand why meth is so addictive, let's think about the everyday things that give us pleasure.
There are wonderful experiences like being on stage or, you know, winning in a tennis tournament. But it's not immediate. It doesn't involve immediate gratification.
Okay, if I look at times that I've been really happy or really pleased about something, flying, going out with friends, the normal things that people derive pleasure from, I had all of those things.
On Friday nights, we would all sit around and watch TV and order pizza and stuff like that. My sisters and me, and my mom, dad. So yeah, there was always good family times, you know.
When I could spend time with my kids and just being with my kids.
Singing, dancing.
Go camping and we go fishing.
Flew my hang glider off a 5,000-foot cliff.
Water skiing, water sports.
Those were highs for me.
Nothing's ever came close to the feeling of meth.
Dopamine makes us feel good, and lots of everyday things cause dopamine to flow. But meth, a synthetic, toxic substance, unnaturally raises dopamine levels. Nothing else in life leads to such a massive release of dopamine and intense surges of pleasure.
And I just figured out how to make so much money. I can get the weed today. I don't have the weed, but the point is we can get it.
Oh, so you need my car. The first time it was like being like Superman.
Flying. You feel like you're so gorgeous.
Instantly happy.
Mind-blowing.
And a blast of like energy.
Kelly, this is Mac.
Hi, Mac. How you doing? I like the dress, the flowers. It really brings out the flower in you. It blings it out.
As we all know, the high comes at a price.
One of the ways that meth works is that it stimulates your brain to release all of its dopamine at once.
How does meth change our brain? When we use meth, it enters the bloodstream and travels to the reward center of the brain where it invades the sending neuron. Meth causes dopamine to unnaturally leak into the neuron, then spill into the synapse. Making matters worse, meth blocks the transporters, which recycle dopamine back into the sending neuron. This keeps levels abnormally high, overstimulating our brains. We feel a powerful wave of pleasure. The rush can last 8 to 12 hours from just one dose. This much dopamine makes us feel good, but meth overloads our brain. We can only take so much before we crash.
You think a day is gone by and, a week or two has gone by, and then your body just gives up on you.
It was more of a blackout. It wasn't like a sleep. I didn't dream or anything. I was just out.
I would sleep for days. I would hibernate for days at a time.
Meth causes dopamine to flood our receptors. When we stay up, taking more and more meth, we exhaust our dopamine supply. The problem is, our brains can only produce a limited amount of dopamine at once. Eventually, we feel like we're running on empty. The party's over, and what we want is more meth.
Unless I had meth, I couldn't get up the next day at all. If I slept for 10 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours, I couldn't get up.
It's almost like a little panic. What's going on? Where's my dope? Where's my money? Where's my stuff?
God, I feel awful. I need some dope. Oh my God, I'm sick. I gotta call my friend and see if I can find some dope because this is like just too much to bear. I can't stand it.
So meth comes into the brain, revs up the engine, and runs it at 100 miles an hour for days, using up our dopamine until our body runs out of gas and crashes. We need up to 10 days to refill our dopamine supply.
My spirit was dying inside. I needed anything to numb it and try and make me happy. And if one line made me happy, two was definitely going to make me happier. At least that's how I felt.
People don't realize this when they start, but over time, you literally change your brain chemistry. This is an unintended consequence. Did your drug use increase over time as you continued to use?
A little amount will keep me, buzzed for a while. And then later on, it was just a constantly, every 5-10 minutes, I got to that point that I was just day and night. That was my thing. Just